3 a.m. dark prayer that will transform your life, shocking blessings await. The clock struck 3, a time when shadows twisted in ominous shapes and the world felt shrouded in a blanket of darkness. Muffled whispers filled the dimly lit room of Emily Sanders, a restless teenager who knew she was on the brink of something extraordinary. Every hair on her body stood on end, tingling with anticipation as she opened an ancient book with yellowed pages, reputed to hold secrets only meant for the brave. The room was stifled with an air of mystery. The only sound was the rhythmic ticking of the clock, echoing like an impending heartbeat against the silence. This was no ordinary night, it was the perfect storm of fate and the unexplained. She had heard tales of a mysterious prayer, one that allegedly summoned mind-blowing blessings that could shift the course of one's life in just a few moments. Friends had warned her. Good people had cautioned her against the darkness that could encircle a person who dared tread where light feared to shine. But Emily was drawn to the thrill, the danger, like a moth to an irresistible flame. This isn't about fear, it's about courage, she thought, heart racing as adrenaline surged in her veins. Suddenly, a chill ran down her spine as she felt the whisper of a presence beyond the thin veil of her reality. It was as if some unseen force was watching, waiting. She glanced up, half expecting to see someone there in the corner, but no one was. The creeping dread pooled in the pit of her stomach, that somber feeling that something momentous was about to unfold, something beyond her control. Maybe it's all just a myth, she muttered to herself, though her trembling fingers spoke otherwise as they traced the peculiar sigils sketched in the book. Strange symbols with bright colors that looked like they leaped off the page, glowing softly as if calling to her from another realm. What did they mean? Why did they spark such deep curiosity? She felt a lump in her throat. She was standing on the edge of an abyss, ready to dive into the unknown. Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. With her heart racing, Emily took a deep breath, willing herself to plunge deeper into the words ahead. The flickering candlelight danced against the walls, casting eerie shapes that twisted and turned, weaving a spell of intrigue around her. She could almost hear the whispers of those who had come before, their hopes and fears mingling with her own. What if they were right? What if this was the ritual that could change everything? Just as she prepared to chant the fated words, her breath hitched in her throat. The air felt heavy, charged with electricity. Was that a voice? A whisper of a name that slipped through the silence? In that moment, Emily's world shifted, a fork in the path of fate that she wasn't sure she was ready to embrace. Who or what awaited her on the other side of this prayer? The candle flickered wildly, sending shadows sprawling across the floor, as if someone was preparing to answer her call. Emily's heart raced as the silence thickened around her. The air shimmered, charged with an intensity that made her feel both alive and terrified. As she glanced back at the ancient tome, the sigils pulsed with a vibrant glow, illuminating the darkness like beacons of hope and fear. A bead of sweat slid down her brow. Was this truly the moment she had pondered so often? She cleared her throat, the lump stubbornly clinging there. Then, with a hesitant voice, she began to chant the words inscribed in elegant, swirling script. Each syllable felt like a key, unlocking something deep within the fabric of reality. The room trembled in response, the candlelight flickering faster, shadows stretching like long-felt connections being awakened from their slumber. By the power of the forgotten, I call upon the spirits of this night. As soon as the final word left her lips, a surge of energy crackled in the air. The shadows converged, swirling like a dark, tempestuous storm, and Emily's excitement tangled with a sense of dread. It felt as if the very essence of the night acknowledged her call, embracing her with cold, clammy fingers. Then, quite suddenly, everything went still. The whispers faded to silence, leaving an eerie calm. Emily felt her heart thud louder, a drum echoing in the vast void where whispers had once swirled. Had she done it wrong? But then it happened. The glowing sigils burst into a vivid light, and Emily gasped as a figure began to materialize before her. It twisted and turned, a shadowy silhouette taking shape, yet lacking the features she could recognize. There was nothing comforting or human about it. This was not a benevolent spirit, it was something far more ancient, far more sinister. "Why do you summon me?" The voice boomed, shaking the walls and rattling her bones. It was neither male nor female, but something entirely other. Emily staggered back, nearly toppling into the candle. I wanted to change everything," she stammered, her voice faltering under the immense weight of its presence. "Change?" The being echoed, its tone mocking. "Desire for change often leads to regret. Are you prepared for what you seek?" Every wish has a price. Her breath caught again, fear wrapping around her throat like a vice. She thought of her life, the mundane struggles at school, the oppressive weight of constant expectation from others. But was this what she truly wanted? What would the cost be? A vision flashed through her mind, friends turning away, loved ones entwined in strife, the very fabric of her world unraveling. Desperation surged as she clutched the book tighter, grounding herself against the swell of panic. "I need to know, I need to fix what's wrong." The entity leaned closer, its form shifting like smoke. Emily could feel its cold breath, a chilling wind that whispered fears and doubts into her ear. "Then step forward. Claim your destiny, but tread carefully. What seem to be blessings can often turn into curses." The darkness swelled around her like a living creature. Emily's chest tightened, dread clawed at her insides. Could she really trust herself to face the unknown? Was the allure of transformation worth facing the entity's ominous warning? With her heart pounding, she took a step forward, drawn deeper into the shadows. The edges of her reality blurred as anticipation morphed into terror. What awaited her on the other side? Would she reclaim control, or would she plunge deeper into a nightmare? Just as she prepared to grasp the unknown, a blinding light erupted from the book, a flash so intense it blinded her. In that moment, everything shattered, and Emily found herself screaming, surrounded by brilliance, but the light quickly dimmed, leaving her suspended in darkness. What had she become? Emily felt the familiar weight of her eyelids, as if they had turned to lead. She blinked, fighting back the haze. In the darkness, 1,000 memories echoed, but one froze her heart. The chant, the portal, the entity. "Where am I?" she whispered, dread curling around her like a snake. Her voice felt strange and distant, as if it belonged to someone else. The chill in the air stripped away any sense of comfort, reminding her swiftly of the choices she had made. Shock raced through her as images began to lurch back into focus. She was in a cavernous space, the walls glowing with ethereal symbols that twisted and writhed like serpents. The book lay before her, still open, pages fluttering as if alive. "What have I done?" she choked out, panic bubbling beneath her skin. A voice slithered back into her mind, reverberating against the darkness. "You sought change, dear one. Now, embrace your new fate." "No, I didn't want this," she shouted, anger and fear mixing into something primal. Behind her, laughter rolled like thunder, deep and rumbling. "Change is inevitable. It binds you now, and you must learn to wield it." Maybe it was too late to go back, but she wouldn't let it end here. She took a step forward, the ground beneath her almost alive. "Show yourself," she yelled, her fear morphing into something fiercer. "You're the one who appeared before me. What have you done?" From the shadows, the figure materialized anew, more defined this time. Its eyes, two piercing orbs, locked onto her, unsettling and impossibly old. "What have I done? Or what have you allowed?" Emily felt a shiver crawl down her spine. Each word was like a weight dropping into the abyss. "I let my ambition blind me." "Ambition is a hunger," the entity replied, its voice layered with echoes. And it will either fill you or consume you whole. Suddenly, the cavern twisted. The walls sang and throbbed as if they responded to her thoughts, her fears. Images surged into view, specters of her life, events replaying at breakneck speed, her friends laughing, her mother's worried expression, moments where she felt utterly alone. Each flicker felt like a shard of glass cutting into her heart. "Change your world, Emily," the being urged, its tone dripping with seduction. "Don't you want to erase the pain? To rewrite your narrative?" "Yes," she breathed, the temptation wrapping around her like shadows. But behind the desire lay trepidation. At what cost? For a heartbeat, silence enveloped them, heavy and suffocating. Then the air thickened, a palpable tension layering over her skin. The entity stepped closer, the darkness wrapping around its form like an embrace. "The price is often your soul, a fragment at a time. Are you prepared to pay?" Emily fought the urge to turn and run. Her heart raced, pounding like a war drum, drowning out the fragments of her fears. What's the alternative? She shot back. To suffer in silence? The entity's smile was sharp, predatory. "You draw nearer to the truth, sweet child. What awaits you might be more than you can handle, but a new power could also birth an uncharted world." With a sinking feeling, Emily realized the depth of her plunge. Power could unravel the very essence of her being, and yet, what if it was her only chance to escape the cycle of pain? "Choose," the being whispered, the shadows swirling violently around Emily. "Choose your fate, and see how deep the darkness goes." The cavern shook, and Emily drew in a trembling breath, her mind racing. What should she do? Could she still turn back, or was she already too far gone? What awaited her was still shrouded in uncertainty, a future that might be brighter, or far, far darker than she'd ever imagined. And as the shadows pressed in, she knew the real challenge had just begun. What would she sacrifice to seize power? What line would she cross? The shadows pressed in around Emily, an encroaching tide of dark whispers begging her to embrace the chaos. She felt the weight of the existence around her, the darkness alive and pulsating like a heartbeat. It was unnerving yet strangely intoxicating. She could feel its hunger, and it scared her. "Make your choice, Emily," the entity urged, fingers outstretched as if beckoning her to step forward into an unholy embrace. "Feel the power surge within you, unfurl your ambitions, take back control." Around her, the symbols on the walls glowed brighter, illuminating the cavern with an otherworldly luminescence. They twisted and turned more violently, reflecting the war waging within her. Fear. Desire. The longing for freedom from her past. But what price would freedom fetch? "What do you want from me?" she asked, her voice trembling, echoing in the cavern. "It's not what I want," the entity hissed, a chilling smile curving its lips. "It's what you want. Power can be yours, but to grasp it, to truly hold it, you must face your own demons." Images flickered behind her closed eyelids, vivid memories that shredded her heart. The look of disappointment on her father's face, the feeling of betrayal from her closest friend, the searing loneliness that chased her like a shadow. Would it all vanish if she accepted this power? "But can I trust you?" she managed, her voice barely a whisper against the now throbbing walls. "You say power will change my fate, but is it a cure for pain or a new kind of torment?" Laughter echoed through the cavern, reverberating off the walls with eerie delight. "Ah, sweet Emily. Trust is a luxury you don't have anymore. You either embrace the darkness or remain shackled by your own fears." The ground wriggled beneath her feet, urging her to lean into the promise. She gulped hard, her throat dry and raw. "What if I say no?" "Then the agony will remain," the being hissed, a note of impatience creeping into its tone. "Choose now, before the shadows consume everything you hold dear." Emily hesitated, her heart pounding mercilessly. Her gaze fell upon the book that lay open. Words danced on the page, shimmering with ominous potential, ink taking the shape of her ultimate hopes, her wildest dreams. Could she really rewrite her life? But how many pages would cost her? Can I create a world where I'm happy? She whispered out loud, half hoping that the answer was yes. The entity nodded, its eyes locked on hers like a serpent ready to strike. You can, but every action has consequences. You must weigh what you desire against what you are willing to pay. Do not let your ambition blind you again. The balance must be kept. Emily's breath hitched. The words settled into her core, igniting a fierce resolve. Maybe it was time to decide who she really wanted to be. A flicker of hope ignited within her chest, even as darkness loomed around her. If I choose to harness this power, what will become of me? She implored, voice rising now with palpable urgency. Will I lose myself, my humanity? Perhaps, the entity replied, its tone hauntingly gleeful. But remember, dear child, what did you have to begin with? Embrace what you could become. A mere mortal can achieve greatness or despair. Emily's heart raced, the cavern vibrating with electric anticipation. The shadows curled tighter, as if drawing her in. Would she plunge into the depths of darkness to seize the thrilling promise of power? Could she risk everything? Choose, the entity crooned. Choose, or the offer may slip away into the void. Her breath quickened. The darkness loomed like a lover, whispering sweet nothings filled with peril. Will you become the architect of your fate, or will you let your past dictate the future? The question hung in the air, heavy with tension and possibility. As Emily took a step towards the swirling shadows, her heart ached with uncertainty. What fate awaited her beyond the veil of power? But before she could answer, the earth trembled violently once more, and suddenly, the symbols seemed to shift. Something darker stirred behind the veil, a truth waiting to be revealed. Would she face it? Would she claim the power, and if so, at what cost? And deep down, another thought gnawed at her, was she prepared for what bloomed behind the darkness? The moment had come and it would change everything. The ground shook beneath Emily's feet, sending waves of dread coursing through her. Each tremor seemed to pulse with the rhythm of her racing heart. She could hear the shadows whispering louder now, a cacophony of voices melding into one overwhelming murmur, urging her to give in. With every breath, the air thickened around her, heavy with unspoken promises and unfulfilled dreams. The symbols on the walls flickered as if alive, swirling more violently, contorting into grotesque forms that danced before her very eyes. They unnerved her, but part of her felt entranced. What if she surrendered? What if, with a single act of will, she could rewrite herself? Choose, Emily, the entity crooned again, its voice smooth like silk slithering across her skin. Power awaits you, but it comes with a cost. Are you aware of the chains you still wear? The truth tugged at her, a shard of regret buried deep in her heart. She felt empty for too long, from the moment she lost herself chasing the approval of her father, the betrayal of her friend haunting her every step. Did she want a second chance? A chance to become someone else, someone powerful? I don't know if I can, she stammered, glancing back at the book. Its pages fluttered, whispering secrets of what might be. What would I have to lose? Only those aspects that remain dim by your own light, the entity replied, its voice dripping with temptation. Fear, pain, despair, they cling to you like barnacles on a ship. What if I told you that in this darkness, you can find strength? Emily's thoughts spiraled. Strength. A flicker of hope ignited within her chest, igniting sparks in the pit of her stomach. Could she really reshape her life, erase the slivers of heartbreak that had defined her? Would she finally silence the noise of her past? But a new voice echoed in her mind, one tempered by caution. You must consider the balance, said a distant memory, her father's warning. Everything comes at a price. The shadows around her seemed to hush, sensing her uncertainty. The quiet felt deafening, pressing against her skull. She could feel the entity's anticipation like a predator watching its prey weigh the cost of retreat versus the thrill of the hunt. A sudden gust of wind stirred in the cavern, tossing dust into the air. The shadows danced faster, closing in on her, the urgency palpable. "Decide before the fear eats you alive, Emily," the entity hissed, and a dark thrill zipped down her spine. "What is it you truly desire?" With a shaky breath, she reached for the book, her fingers brushing against the page that felt electric. Visions swirled around her, golden opportunities, faces she could redeem, life restored. "Create a world where I'm the master of my fate? Where my pain doesn't define me?" she declared. "What do I have to do? I'll do it. I'll face it all. Then step into the shadows, brave child," the entity sang, delight spilling from its voice. "Embrace what you were meant to be. Release your shackles. You shall not fear your past. You shall transform it." As she stepped forward, darkness wrapped around her like a velvet cloak, enveloping her in its seductive embrace. The energy surged through her veins, her skin prickling with a ferocious power she never knew existed, but as the shadows began to settle, she felt a flicker of conflict deep within. Was this truly liberation? Or a step towards becoming something irrevocable, something monstrous? And in that moment of clarity, the cavern erupted in a violent flash, blinding her senses. A scream echoed that didn't belong to her, stretching out like a warning through the void. Emily staggered back, heart racing, as the shadows split open, revealing a spiraling vortex of light and dark. A voice boomed from within the chaos, "Prepare for the reckoning, for a true trial of your soul awaits. Will you still embrace this power?" The air turned electric, filled with potential and peril. As the reality around her shifted, Emily stood at the brink of a new destiny, but would she emerge as the architect of her fate or as another victim of the darkness she so eagerly embraced? Dread coiled in her stomach as the world blurred, ready to consume her whole, unraveling the very fabric of her being. What awaited in that swirling abyss was a mystery she could not yet fathom. Emily felt her body pulled toward the vortex, the immense swirling force whispering promises and threats in equal measure. Her heart pounded, a frantic drum echoing against the chamber's stone walls. Each pulse sent adrenaline surging, mingling exhilaration with fear. She teetered on the precipice of an unknown fate, reality flickering like a faulty light bulb. "Step forward," the entity commanded, the words echoing deep within her bones. It wasn't just a suggestion, it felt like a decree. The shadows writhed around her, beckoning her with a seductive hum. She glanced down at the book still clutched in her trembling hands. The pages glowed bright against the enveloping darkness, a beacon amidst chaos. In flashes of memory, she relived her failures, her father's disappointed gaze, the betrayal sharp in her chest, the endless nights spent trapped in a cycle of self-doubt. That hurt had forged bonds like chains, yet beneath it lay an ember of defiance. Before she could rethink, she took a step forward, the ground solidifying beneath her foot, sucking her deeper into the core of the vortex. A rush of sensations flooded her mind, overwhelming yet intoxicating. The voices transformed, some sweet, some agonizing, filling her with the echoes of those who had risen and fallen before her. She felt their pain, their strength, and their relentless struggle against despair. Was her desire for power stronger than her fear of losing herself? With a roar, the vortex expanded, dazzling sights sparkling like stars in a night sky, each representing potential paths waiting for her to embark. "You seek transformation? Choose wisely," the entity intoned, voice both seductive and dangerous. "Every choice carries weight." "Weight?" Emily echoed, bewildered. The word resonated in the hollow of her chest like a bell tolling alarmingly. What did she truly seek? Power? Revenge? Or was it just freedom, the ability to rewrite her own narrative without the burdens that chained her? The swirling masses shifted, fragmenting into silhouettes of loved ones and enemies alike. Her best friend's face glared back at her, disappointment radiating from her eyes. Would embracing power mean turning her back on those who mattered? Would she crush the very bonds she had once cherished? "Bind yourself to the shadows, let them guide you," the entity urged, its whispers curling around her mind, tempting and treacherous. I can't just abandon everything. She shouted against the deafening roll of voices. They matter. Do they? What use are they if they bind you in chains of your own making? In that moment, the vortex tightened its grip, almost as if the shadows were forcing her to confront her truths. Images flickered, her father's strained face, her friend's betrayal, her moments of isolation, each memory tinted with a new color: doubt, regret, sadness. With a deep breath, she found her voice. I refuse to be defined by them. I want to heal, not to become a monster. The shadows recoiled momentarily, then surged forward, lashing against her. They hurled despair and desire at her, challenging her resolve. Then endure the trial. The entity roared. You will face what you fear most, a reflection of your own soul. The ground shook fiercely, blending light with darkness in an explosive swirl, and Emily braced herself. The contours of her reality twisted violently, blurring the lines between past and future. In an instant, she stood at a precipice of her own making, confronted by a dark figure cloaked in shadows that seemed all too familiar. Welcome back, it whispered, voice sending icy tendrils of fear skittering up her spine. It mirrored her every movement, eyes cold and vacant, a haunting echo of her own doubts. As the sense of despair and determination swirled within her, she knew this wasn't just a fight for power. It was a battle for her very soul. But before she could muster a response, the figure lunged forward, and Emily stumbled back, heart plummeting. In that moment, she realized victory would require confronting the deepest parts of her being, parts she had always fought to hide. And yet, as the shadows danced hungrily around her, a question loomed like the storm clouds overhead: could she conquer this reflection, or would she succumb to the darkness that lingered just at the edge of her mind? As the vortex spiraled violently, what lay ahead was uncertain. But she knew one undeniable truth: the next moments would determine everything. Emily's feet barely touched the ground, and the moment felt suspended in time. The dark figure loomed closer, and as it extended an arm, the familiar chill of fear gripped her. Face me, it commanded, the echoes thrumming with energy that made her skin prickle. Gathering her courage, she stood firm. You're not real, she shouted, though her voice fractured with uncertainty. Yet deep inside, a fire ignited. This shadow may have mirrored her doubts, but she refused to flinch. Not real? It scoffed, laughter chilling as ice. I am every regret, every unspoken fear. I am the darkness you refuse to acknowledge. The shadows shimmered, carving out snippets of her past. Memories rushed in, her father's voice booming in disappointment, her friend's betrayal slicing through trust, and the echoing silence that followed her failures. Each moment twisted around her like a noose, tightening with every breath. No, she protested, shaking her head as if that alone could dispel the haunting visions. She fought to remember the embers of resilience, but they flickered like dying embers against the onslaught. You don't control me. Yes, I do, the figure replied, stepping toward her as the darkness pulsed. In its proximity, she felt a weight pressing down on her chest. You cannot escape me, Emily. Not without accepting the truth. With muscles tense and heart racing, Emily's mind raced for anything that could shatter the suffocating grip. She remembered the light of hope in her mother's eyes when she had shared her dreams, and the warmth during moments that felt trivial yet profound. Breaths came faster, time surged around her, turning chaotic like the vortex itself. Maybe you're part of me, she replied, breathing steadier. But I refuse to let you dictate my choices. It felt like a defiant declaration, but she could feel the vine of uncertainty still clutching at her heart. Then prove it, the figure pushed, stepping closer until it could almost touch her, a shadow that felt like ice against her warm skin. What will you sacrifice? Power always has a price. The truth sank in. Sacrifice and power were interwoven, threads of the same fabric. But what was the worth of power if it stripped her of her humanity? Everything she held dear flashed before her eyes, echoing her resolve. I choose my own path," she shouted, drawing from deep within the well of determination she'd thought she had lost. "I choose love over anger. Healing over vengeance." With those words, light sparked, ripping through the shadows. The vortex responded, whirling violently as if mirroring her inner chaos. The dark figure staggered, its edges flickering like a flame caught in the wind. "Emily!" it hissed, now pleading, the cruel confidence in its voice wavering. "Don't do this to yourself. I have to," she cried out, strength flooding her limbs. The swirling shadows intensified, merging with her emotions: anger, hope, sorrow, and she aimed that energy at the dark reflection of herself. For a heartbeat, time halted. Then, her heart thundered in her chest as a blinding light erupted from her core, smashing through the darkness that encircled. Yet just as the light began to swallow the figure whole, it surged back. "What makes you think you can defeat me?" it yelled, desperation thick in its tone. "I don't have to defeat you," she replied, as clarity washed over her. "I just have to accept you." The weight in her chest lifted, understanding replaced fear. As the light illuminated the vortex, she caught a glimpse of countless paths extending from this moment. Choices awaited, each bursting with vibrant possibilities. But just as she took a step toward that future, a thunderous roar erupted from the depths of the vortex, shaking the very core of her resolve. "Emily, this isn't over." The darkness lashed out once more, and fear washed over her in waves. What would she face next in this relentless battle for her soul, and could she truly embrace the parts of herself she had long denied? As she braced for the unknown, those questions clung like shadows, growing darker in the light. Light exploded all around her, radiating with a ferocity that felt almost sentient. The dark figure recoiled as if burned, shrinking back into the obscurity from whence it came. Emily could feel the heat from the light dancing across her skin, invigorating her spirit while inciting defiance within her. But doubt still hovered in the corners of her mind like a persistent fog, whispering reminders of every moment she had faltered. "Emily," the figure's voice was now softer, almost gentle, as it reformed in the periphery. "Don't you see? I am part of you, an integral piece of your identity." Her heart pounded as she visualized the memories, fragments of her existence scattered like fallen leaves. Each one held a secret, wounds unfinished and truths left unsaid. If she accepted the darkness, did that mean she was welcoming failure into her soul? What would that mean for the dreamer, the artist, or the friend she understood herself to be? "Acceptance doesn't mean defeat," she shouted into the swirling chaotic air. "It means understanding. I've been ashamed of you, but I know you weren't always a monster." The shadows around her flickered and danced like angry flames, challenged and stirred by her conviction. Suddenly, the swirling darkness ebbed away slightly, revealing another piece of the vortex. Within it, she saw the glimmer of hope, a delicate thread woven from all the joy she'd ever felt, from laughter around family dinners to the thrill of chasing dreams. The darkness mirrored the dreams too. Did it hold the ambivalence of a relationship gone sour, too? "Your past doesn't define you, Emily. But you must confront me, or you'll forever be bound by your fears," it taunted, now appearing almost pitiable. She took a deep breath, straightening her posture. "You call it fear, but it's also strength. I've carried you along too long, thinking you were my burden. But you're also a lesson." With renewed conviction, she focused on the tendrils of light reaching for the remnants of her past. She envisioned the horrible moments, the betrayal, the insecurities, but also felt the warmth of love intertwined with them. "Every regret I have also taught me resilience," she declared, and the vortex responded, bending to her will. The shadows coiled and snapped around her, warning of danger, but she pressed onward. Suddenly, a deafening roar echoed through the space, shaking the very foundation of her resolve. "You cannot embrace shadows if you want to step into the light," it howled, thick walls of darkness slamming back into place, locking her in at the center of the vortex. Fingers trembling, Emily reached for the energy around her. But I won't let you imprison me again. She screamed, pouring her strength into the light, willing it forth like a beacon in the night. A radiant wave surged from her heart once more, breaking through the dark prison. The shadows howled in rage, but their cries soon faded, replaced by a chorus that sounded almost like laughter, rich, joyful, and filled with promise. As Emily stumbled back, the light stretched beyond the edges, illuminating a hidden passage. It shimmered with tantalizing possibilities, but in the distance, she heard a familiar voice, a figure cloaked in shadows that whispered secrets from her past. Emily, it beckoned, tenderly this time. You think you've awakened a new future, but the past is coming back. Are you even ready to know the truth? Her heart raced. What lay ahead? Would she have the courage to face her most profound fears? The light was there, but the dark still lingered, poised like a predator. What awaited her beyond the shimmering passage, and would she find redemption, or would the shadows drag her into the depths once again? The air thickened around her, urging her to choose. The light shimmered at the edge of the passage, offering a tantalizing promise of freedom. But the dark figure lingered like a storm cloud, hovering just out of reach. Emily could feel its weight, pressing down on her like a suffocating blanket. What truth? She shouted, her voice trembling yet fierce. Show me. But the shadows only stirred, wrapping around her ankles like icy tendrils. Are you prepared to pay the price? It whispered, as if feeding off her uncertainty. With every heartbeat, Emily's resolve solidified. She was done being a puppet of her past. Yes. Show me. She cried. The air crackled, a static charge electrifying the space. The vortex twisted violently, and gravity seemed to relent for a moment. Emily felt herself floating, caught between light and dark, her emotions spiraling around her like a chaotic dance. She had wrestled with self-doubt long enough, it was time to confront the reality that had haunted her for years. As she propelled forward, the shadows shifted sharply, diving into the depths of her most hidden memories. The swirling darkness unveiled fragments of her life, the moments of despair, betrayal, and loss. A heart-wrenching vision materialized before her eyes, a younger Emily, standing alone at a birthday party, forgotten by friends and wrapped in silence. The laughter around her felt like daggers, cutting deep. Do you see? The dark figure mocked, its voice layered with echoes of her past. You'll always be the abandoned one. No. Emily yelled, her voice bold against the cacophony of memories clawing at her. That's not who I am anymore. I am more than my pain. With a surge of energy, she reached out toward the vibrant light, letting its warmth envelop her. Her memories shifted, bridging the divide between pain and hope. She could see her family, their joy filling the spaces once occupied by shadows. The smiles, the love, the moments when she had truly shined, they were emerging from the darkness, illuminating the truth she had long buried. Your strength has always been there, a familiar voice echoed within her, the voice of her younger self, fierce and determined. You just need to remember how to summon it. The darkness erupted in frustration, thrashing violently. You think they will always choose you? It hissed, revealing snippets of bitterness from friends who turned their backs, the betrayal that had once felt insurmountable. They left you. You are alone. Not anymore. Emily screamed defiantly. I am a part of something greater. With the light pulsing through her, she envisioned her connections, the bonds she had cultivated over the years. They were threads of gold interlaced with the shadows, they made her whole. Suddenly, everything she had fought against became hers to wield. The darkness was not merely a foe to vanquish, but a teacher to embrace. As she stood firm, a seismic pulse of energy burst forth, illuminating her surroundings. The shadows recoiled, their hold weakening. No matter what you throw at me, I will choose my own path. The vortex spiraled, light cascading around her like a vibrant waterfall. As the darkness unraveled, a haunting voice whispered from the depths, but what if the truth you seek leads to even darker discoveries? Will your light endure when confronted with the stark, unfiltered reality of your past? The passage ahead glimmered, revealing a landscape of swirling mists, shadows still lurking. Emily took a step, heart racing, knowing she was teetering on the edge of an abyss. "I'm ready," but was she truly prepared for what lay beyond? The voice echoed again, carrying dread and intrigue. "The truth may shatter everything you hold dear." Emily stood at the precipice, her heart hammering against her ribcage. The luminous passage stretched enticingly before her, yet darkness clung stubbornly in the corners of her mind. "I might be ready," she whispered, voice trembling like a fragile string. But ready for what? The dark figure loomed closer, its shape shifting ominously as it spoke again. "Your truth is not what you expect. It will unfold the layers of your soul, show you the dreams you buried, and the pain you sought to escape. Are you truly prepared to face it?" The shadows slithered, curling around her ankles as if anchoring her to the past. Emily inhaled deeply, piecing together the fragments of her experiences like a tattered quilt. This was not just a battle for power or ambition, it was a reckoning with herself. "Yes. Show me!" she screamed, grounding herself in her voice, her fury fueling her resolve. A blinding light erupted from the pulsating vortex, illuminating the depths of her memories, a whirlwind of moments both joyous and heart-wrenching. The laughter of friends, the disappointment in her father's eyes, the betrayal that sliced her heart. Each moment rushed forth, mingling with the shadows, weaving a story only she could untangle. "Do you remember?" The figure taunted, its voice slithering through the air. "You thought you could erase me, pretend I didn't exist." "No!" Emily shouted defiantly, pushing against the chains of her past. "I don't need to erase anything. I've learned from my mistakes." She stepped forward, the light growing ever more radiant, pushing back the darkness like the dawn chasing away the night. The whirlwind of memories began to settle, and she saw it clearly. Every moment that had once felt like a burden now revealed a truth, a lesson buried beneath the pain. It was as if the light stripped the layers off her heart, exposing her vulnerability but shining with the beauty of resilience. "You're not just fears, you're my growth," she cried, the weight of the truth settling comfortably inside her. "You made me who I am today. I'm not ashamed." The dark figure recoiled, its edges flickering as if caught in a storm. But what of the whispers of despair? The echoes of betrayal? "Those whispers won't decide my worth," she countered, every word ringing with a clarity she had never felt before. "I choose strength. I choose to heal." A surge of energy pulsed from her, rippling through the air. The shadows began to dissipate, yielding to the brilliance radiating from her core. She was not just the pain she had carried, she was the fighter, the dreamer, and every single connection she had built over the years. The entity fled, shrinking into the fading shadows, but it wasn't gone yet. "You think you've conquered me?" it huffed, its voice now almost desperate. "You'll face echoes. You'll confront loss. You'll remember grief." "I'm not afraid," Emily shouted, her voice strong enough to pierce through the dark veil. "I'll face it all. I've survived till now, and I will thrive." With those words, the light surged, expanding outwards like a supernova, engulfing the dark figure and scattering the shadows to the winds. Emily felt the shift in energy, a sense of freedom wrapping around her like a warm embrace. The world began to transform. The cavern dissolved before her eyes, leaving only the luminous passageway ahead. As she took step after tentative step, a sense of purpose coursed through her veins. The invitation to embrace her truth was intoxicating. She felt alive and powerful, like a bird breaking free from a cage. "Remember," the spirit echoed softly, floating somewhere in the recesses of her mind. "Every power you embrace shapes you. Every choice has its price." With each step, she understood that embracing the light did not negate her past but honored it. With each memory faced, she learned to weave her own narrative, one filled with hope rather than despair. And as she emerged from the swirling mists into a new world, a brilliant dawn spread across the horizon. It was here that Emily knew she could finally rewrite her story on her own terms. She exhaled deeply, savoring the realization of her own potential. No more shadows, no more fear, only an open field ahead. This was her moment. And then, as the sun broke through the horizon, a voice stumbled into her thoughts. Now go, and remember to share your journey. And just like that, Emily turned, grinning from ear to ear. She finally felt whole, ready to embrace life's chaos and its beauty, but before she stepped fully into her future, she turned to you, dear friend. This is your moment too. You need to subscribe now, so you don't miss the incredible adventures that await next. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help others see the light. Flood the comments section with your reactions, your theories, and your own stories of transformation. And finally, don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need inspiration and courage to embrace their own truths. Together, let us change the world, one story at a time.